In this video I'm going to explain to you how to turn your arcade1up stool that does not swivel into one that swivels, which should help prolong the life of the stool from kids and adults that think they need to wiggle and squirm around or whatever when they are playing, so they're not tearing up the vinyl and destroying these stools because they're not exactly cheap. So to do this, what you're going to need is a boat seat swivel. That's all this is. I get mine off of Amazon. I will post a link in the description to the ones I use. Somebody actually gave me this one. The ones I normally buy are black in color, not that it matters. So those are the black ones that I normally use. You're going to need a pair of pliers or a wrench that will fit these nuts that you're going to buy. They don't have to be nylon insert lock nuts. This is just all I was able to get in this size locally. M6-1, you need 4 of them. You're going to need 4 of these countersunk Phillips M6-1 by 20 millimeter length. You're going to need a 5 millimeter Allen key and a Phillips head. I'm using the impact driver, so I'm just going to use pliers on the nuts, or that's what I did use because I already have this bearing on here. Because with using the power tool, it's no big deal to use the pliers. It cinches it right down. So what you're going to do is you're going to flip the stool upside down, and then you're going to remove the 4 bolts using your 5 millimeter Allen key. You're then going to flip the stool right side up. You're going to set the bearing on, and there seems to be a top and a bottom. The nicer part of the pin is on top. The bottom part is where they press the pin. It's like a giant rivet. So you're going to take those bolts that you took out of the seat base, and you're going to drop them through the bearing and through your tubing one at a time. Once you get them all 4 on there, go around and start all 4 of your nuts. Then you're going to want to tighten one all the way down, and then go directly across from it and tighten the opposite one all the way down. That way the bearing should stay centered, and then go ahead and tighten the other 2 down. Now, an issue I found on these stools, it only seems to be these arcade1up stools. So I've got these black stools, not this one. I've got these black stools. I purchased these off of Amazon, and they were inexpensive, and they already came with swivels. But if you look in the center, they also have a bolt in the center to center the 2 sets of hoops for the stool legs, which also means that the center here is pulled down. Well, the arcade1up ones, I guess to save even more money, they don't put a bolt there or holes for a bolt. You don't really need it, but what that ends up doing is this tubing is not flat in the middle where that bearing, the center pin for the bearing, needs to set. So what I ended up doing was I took a pair of ball peen hammers, and I just smacked the center of that down a little bit, dimpled it, and it pretty easily put it down below where the bearing's not going to touch. If you don't do that, or maybe put washers under here to space this up, this plate upward, what ends up happening is when you tighten the plate down, these ears where the bolts go through, they bend down, and it forces that pin up against the tubing, and then this bearing, instead of being nice and snug, it's loose, and it'll rattle, like the seat will rock, and you can just spin it. It's got no friction, no resistance, and it's kind of annoying. So I suggest doing that. You just need to do something so that when you tighten these down, you can see up in there, so it's not touching. It doesn't need to have this much space, but it needs to be not touching. Okay? I mean, I guess you could put it on upside down. I don't know that it would make a difference. I mean, it's not like you're using it outside. But there's definitely a metal cup here that holds the bearings. The little ball bearings in there. So I'm not so sure if it's a good idea to flip these upside down or not. So anyway, moving on. Once you have your bearing all assembled and tightened, you're simply going to flip the stool over, and then you're going to take these countersunk ones that you bought, and you're going to screw them in, get them all started. And once you get them all started, all 4 of them started, you're going to want to do the same thing you did up top, which is tighten one and then go directly across from it and tighten the one directly across from it, then tighten the other 2. This way, when you tighten it down, hopefully it centers itself up, or as centered as it's going to get. And that should do it. Get this last one in. Take the impact driver. I'm going to snug 2 of these. Now I'm going to tighten these. And then I'm going to run these in. And that's it. It's got resistance. It's not wiggly wobbly, making noise. So there's another stool done. So this stool here is not a 1-up stool. This is just a Star Wars branded stool. You see them with, I think, a Boba Fett face. This one's got a Vader face. I think I've seen one with a Stormtrooper face, and there maybe was a 4th one. I don't remember. Maybe it was Chewbacca's face or something. I don't know. Either way, these also do not come with swivels, and as you can see, the bottom of them is plastic. It's molded for the pipes to go inside. It's also doesn't have a centering bolt here. These are the bearings I bought off Amazon. Again, I will put a link to them in the description. And these are a little better because you can see the pin up inside there. And the pin is not touching, and I did not modify this stool. So this is a better one than the other one. And I don't think this is upside down, but I can't quite tell. I don't remember what these look like because I did these a while ago. And I have not had any problems with them. So when you're tightening these down though, because these are reset, these are notched here, this plastic, don't go crazy tightening this down. You just want to tighten them down hand tight. Because if you start going and cranking on them, you're either going to break this plastic or do some other type of damage. On these particular ones, I don't remember what I did here as far as hardware because it's been a while. I'm guessing I did the same thing on these that I did on the arcade1ups, which was take the bolts out of the seat, move them to the pipes to hold the bearing to the pipe, and I put washers and nuts on them, and then I got replacement bolts here. These obviously are going to be longer than 20 millimeter, so you're going to have to figure that out. You don't want to go too long though. If you go too long, they will be sticking up through the padding, and there's always the possibility that somebody sitting on this could compress the padding enough where they get jabbed in the butt with the top of the bolt, which also would probably poke a hole through the cover. And you don't want either of those things to happen. Now these stools I bought off of Amazon. I got these very inexpensive off warehouse deals. These already came with a swivel. These are nice stools. They came with a swivel. They came with a centering bolt, so you don't have to worry about the swivel hitting anything. They're not exactly the highest quality. You know, there's a lot of ripples in this ring, But honestly, who cares? You're going to be putting your feet on it. Other people will be putting their feet on it. It's got a shorter height on the foam, but it's dense foam. This one here is from Harbor Freight. Again, I don't believe this came with a bearing. I'm pretty sure this is another Amazon bearing that I had. But this is one of the cheap Pittsburgh stools. It's just to have another stool with a different type of top on it. But it's the same setup as doing the arcade1up stool. It's flat on the bottom. Use these bolts, run them through the bearing through here, put nuts on them, and put new bolts in here. I'm going to assume these are also metric, but you're going to want to check. So when you take these out, take one of these bolts with you to the store to buy the hardware to make sure that they are still M6-1s. So that should be it for this video. So there's your different stools. They all swivel. There are kind of sort of slightly different heights on them, especially once you add the bearing. The bearing does add a little bit of height to it. My kid sits on these and plays. My wife sits on these and plays. And I've got, on my machines, I've got the factory riser, and then I've got an additional 4-inch riser, including this machine. This is an additional 4-inch riser to get these up to more of a standard height. So every machine has one. These are ones that I made myself. Simpsons over here has one. I think I went over these in another video. The Space Invaders, we just got that, so I just made the riser for the additional booster riser today. I'm letting the glue dry overnight. Go to paint it tomorrow, and then we'll slap it on there. And then this one will match the rest of them. But very simple, inexpensive upgrade to these stools. It makes a huge difference, in my opinion, on the quality and the use of the stool, and hopefully should help prolong the lifespan of the top of the stool. So people aren't, like I said, kids, and I've seen kids do this, they sit on it and they wiggle back and forth, and even adults squirming around and stuff. And without this being able to swivel, they're working all these bolts back and forth very slowly. They're going to work them loose. And it's not so much that the hardware works loose, is they end up elongating the holes where the hardware goes through the metal. So they're causing damage to the frame of the stool, but at the same time, they're wiggling on this vinyl. And what that's going to do is it's going to start pulling on the vinyl and eventually tear it. And then you're buying another $80 stool or whatever. I think that's what these cost, is $80. These 1-up ones. I forget what the other ones here cost, but I know the Star Wars ones, at least at one time, were pretty pricey too. So hopefully this helps you guys out. Like I said, I'll put a link in the description for where you can get the bearings off of Amazon if you want to get them there. I believe I also saw people say online, I've seen people mention that you can also get them at Tractor Supply. I don't know where you're going to get a better deal, depending on where you live too, I guess, whether or not you even have a Tractor Supply. But that's it for this video. Like and subscribe.